Second week in a row, I forgot to turn off my mic, but this time I remembered on my own. No, that was 2 weeks ago.
Progress.
I remembered on my own. Jeff still hasn't unmuted his, though, is the funny part. He just spoke and we couldn't hear him.
He's working, so that's fine.
All right, man. My brain's a little fried. Can you hear me now?
We can. Jeff,
you're good.
Have you looked at your cell phone recently? See any texts or anything?
Like, I'm on edge every day, looking at every text. You know, once it gets to the end of these kind of stories that have lasted literally 2 years or so, and you think it's going to be done earlier than it's done, and by the end, anybody who texts you, it's just asking about that, and that's all anybody wants to read about, you know. So yes, I've looked at my phone way too frequently.
I felt really bad earlier when Larry and I were just kind of emoting back and forth. And I was like, man, Jeff's getting like 1 million text messages right now that he does not need. I almost like sent an apology text and I'm like, oh shit, that's going to be another one.
There's only one we care about though.
That's right.
See, he just got one. What is good, Jeff? Give thumbs up. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
No. Right now, no, I'm just tweeting. I'm tweeting out that the show is live.
Okay. The whole show, we're just going to be like,
we're just going to be staring at.
I know.
We're just going to be staring at Jeff's facial expressions and like, you know, he's looking up or looking down, like somebody, you know, like his wife busts into the room to tell him that his other phone's going off. Like, it's going to be one of those shows.
His burner account.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Larry
this is the biggest one. What was the last saga that was this big or lasted this?
That's what I was saying.
Dickinson was interesting, but that was 1 month. You know, it felt at times like they had a decent shot, but it was never like that guy's. You know, because the story was so unlikely. He was a luxury, you know, lotto ticket queen.
Yeah,
the last one that people have invested this much time into. Harrison twins. I guess I said this last week. I'm being redundant, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because Styx Styx was fairly early in the cycle. I thought Diamond Stone was kind of like that, but again, I don't know how long we really were stressing over that. I think the issue here is not even. I posted it on one of the threads on InsideMarylandSports.com message boards about how the issue for me with this recruitment isn't necessarily if Derik Queen is going to go to Maryland or not go to Maryland. It's that he's literally the entire class. I mean, this is the entire recruiting class right now. It is a pass-fail test. I've been saying for months on the show, Willard's got to get it done. There's nobody else. I mean, there's, you know, Oliogu is still out there, but is he coming without Queen? Is he coming anyway from Overtime Elite? That just doesn't smell right. So I think the importance of this isn't so much of Queen just as a player, as a singularity. It's how much it means to the program and continuing what you hope will be some really positive momentum from last year to this year and looking forward with Harris Smith Kaiser and the turning over that roster into kind of the next generation.
Have you checked your phone in the last minute, Jeff?
You see me looking down, don't you?
Yeah.
He's just gonna be the whole show. Jeff's just gonna be like this, you know.
I mean, I'm talking to a lot of people.
Alarm every minute, and every minute when you hear the beep, Jeff, you give us an update on the latest text.
I mean, the crazy thing is, like, I'm doing this just on Maryland's. Like, to us, it's a big world. It's this small niche. Imagine being like, and I feel stressed out or busy or confused or whatever else, pressure. Imagine these guys like Woj and Schefter and all of them, who are just scoop after scoop in like a much bigger universe of news that way more people.
They're not as emotionally tied to it like you are, though, Jeff. Like, it's different, man.
Those guys got assistants, man.
Yeah,
like, those guys got multiple phones.
And I got you guys.
Yeah, you got us. You guys. And yeah, all your assistance from us is us to be like, Jeff, what's going on? You hear anything?
Yeah. And me with my negative comments thrown in there.
Yeah, when Larry's being negative, you know things have gone off the rails.
Once Larry's one of the more positive people that you'll meet, but once he's headed down the hill and decided it's not going to go well, you're not turning him around.
It's a ski slope.
It's just.
Well, since we're talking about it, full disclosure, I've been the one saying for a while now that I didn't think he was coming. Despite, I know what you say, but I've been saying that for a while now.
You can't really erase the Maryland fan in this type of scenario. I mean, Maryland never wins these recruitments like this. They just don't. It never, ever, ever happens. So every time
not true, they do win sometimes.
But when it's a player of this magnitude with the schools that are involved, and when it starts getting late and you're past the official visits and it's just kind of like stuff happening behind the scenes, that's when Maryland's bids usually fall apart. But post brings eternal, right?
It's usually a pretty clear delineation of where the odds drop, like precipitously for Maryland is 5-star, right?
Yep.
As soon as it's a 5-star, it could be a high 4-star. And I'm not saying this to say, I'm not trying to imply Derik Queen's not coming. In general, in this conversation about Maryland recruiting, it's like once he crosses that 5-star threshold, like a video game, you go to all Madden. But
well,
we want to talk about the game first. Get into the game
let's.
a little bit.
Well,
we did actually play a basketball game last night, which counts.
They did. They did.
Yeah, I know. So now that we've lured you into the show, let's actually talk about the basketball game, and then we will come back to
the football team played this weekend too, didn't they?
Did they?
I think so.
I don't know.
I watched it from here this weekend in North Carolina.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I left after the second Penn State touchdown.
I know you texted us about it. I know you.
That's a quick surrender. That was a quick surrender.
I was gonna murder some of those people, and I got some thoughts on that whole situation.
Well, you're here to express your thoughts, Paul. So go ahead.
Oh, you want to do that now? Let's do that now. All right.
Go ahead, do it.
I give a lot of money. Okay, I give an uncomfortable amount of money to Maryland athletics, and we had those guys on a couple weeks ago, and I love those guys. Matt's been a good friend for a while. The way that they seat donors at Maryland for football is outrageously terrible. I mean, I sit in Section 6, the last row of Section 6. That's fine. We love it up there. It's covered. Everything's great. Get to sit with all my friends. But the idea that you walk into a stadium when you're playing one of these Big Ten powerhouses, whether it's Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, whatever, and every single time you can count on Section 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 over to 2 and 1, which are given to the opposing team, are absolutely full of opposing fans.
But is that Maryland fans just reselling them?
Well, part of it is Maryland fans reselling them, and screw you if you're one of those people, okay? I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care that you made a couple $100 off those tickets. Screw you. You're an asshole. But when the Terrapin Club sells those single game tickets, I don't care if they pair them with some other crap game or whatever. Again, sure, congrats on selling out the stadium. But when you've sold it out and you've given most of the best seats to the opposing team, I'm sorry. Why am I giving all this money to you for those tickets? Why should all of us who sit there not just wait until single game tickets go on sale and buy those super awesome seats then?
Yeah, I assume their view is at this point with these fans not coming, we just got to whatever it takes to squeeze. I'm sure obviously it involves extra profit margin and
I understand the market. I get it. Nobody, like I said, I'm just as mad at Maryland fans as I am at the way that the administration handles this thing. And we always talk about this chicken or the egg scenario when it comes to Maryland football. If the fans show up, it helps the football team be better. But the fans won't show up unless the football team is better. And I don't know how you deal with that, because that seems to be that kind of point where Maryland football is right now, where if you're going to be a program that's only going to be in this kind of 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 in a good year window, I don't know if that's good enough to get people's butts off the couches. And if they're not there, that's not helping the team succeed. I mean, I guarantee you when they come for senior day against Michigan, they're going to see a whole lot of blue and maize. I guess that's better than seeing an empty stadium on Thanksgiving weekend like it normally is. But
I don't know. Those empty senior day crowds are depressing.
It's incredibly depressing. And there are a lot of times where it's just like, man, if I'm a recruit and I go to Penn State for one of those culty whiteout things, I mean, that's going to look pretty awesome compared to whatever the hell you're getting in Maryland most of the time.
Hey, be careful, man. Be careful. I said they were a little cultish like 12 years ago, and they still despise me
And now
vigorously for it and make up memes about how I'm a Zima drinker.
I was just gonna say the Zima thing. Yeah,
like Photoshops and stuff.
I forgot about that.
Weird.
Oh, that's so good. Well, I don't know. They can say whatever
think
they
that's a
want
big
about me.
insult or something.
Like I was saying, it reminds me of like when you're in college, if you're like 20-year-old meathead trying to be, you drink Zima, man, like like trying to boost yourself. So it's
right,
whatever.
Like getting ice in the corner, like
man.
I don't know.
It's just anyways.
It's just depressing, man.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it at the store.
Okay,
I go through a couple cases a week. Actually, I eat my cereal with it instead of milk.
I certainly would if I was you this week.
We'll see, man.
That's a whole other thing. Maybe or it's gonna be champagne or OE. Yeah.
Jeff, have you looked at your phone recently?
Yeah.
Just check, please.
Yeah,
nothing.
Okay. Anyway. All right, so yeah, Penn State sucked, by the way, and we'll just finish football right here. And here's the thing: I got good news for everybody. So speaking of uncomfortable amounts of money, I saw that line come out with Nebraska getting 2.5 points, and I threw an uncomfortable amount of money on Nebraska's money line. So congratulations, Terps! Congratulations, Terps! We're getting 6. We're going to a bowl, baby. It is happening. I have totally reverse jinxed this thing. There's no way I'm winning that bet. So Maryland's going to beat Nebraska on Saturday. We're going to get to 6 wins. Everything's going to be great.
The fishy point spread theory, which is pretty good generally, did not work out last week with that 9.5 looking a little too small. But this one to me looks even. I don't know. I haven't looked to see what the public consensus is. Maybe people are taking Maryland for all I know. But I think Nebraska's won like 3 or 4. They've been playing decent ball. It's all the way at home. Maryland's been a disaster. And
they did
like that. That one looks.
They did lose.
It's not like they're having strong wins,
right. And the weather looks good. There's a lot of all the things that Maryland usually has problems with don't look like they're happening this weekend. But they did lose at Michigan State last week. That is not awesome. They are not a very good team, but it's just a team that beats Maryland every time. It just feels like a game that Maryland never wins, especially this time of year. So, like I said, you're welcome. Don't ever act like that I am not all in for this program. I'm doing the best I can. And honestly, that's the most I can do.
When you said you bet an uncomfortable amount of money, did you bet all 18 of our YouTube dollars? Is that what you did?
That was a portion. That was a portion of the.
You bet our entire budget, everything we've ever earned.
Look, I noted it in the spreadsheet at least, so you guys are aware of it. Okay, legally I'm covered. So maybe I should have just bet my $6 out of that. But
and for the record, you guys make fun of me in the spreadsheets all the time. Let me just say, Paul is very adamant about keeping a budget spreadsheet now that we're making money and it's $18 whole dollars.
Look, there's one thing, the one thing in my life I am completely OCD and anal retentive about, it is keeping track of money, especially when other people's money is involved too. I don't care if it's $18 or $18,000. I don't want anybody ever accusing me that somebody's,
hey, look,
I got my hand in somebody else's pot of gold, man.
I'm good. I love the spreadsheets, so I'm good with that.
So
we're doing a Google Doc that we can all access.
I fixed it up a little bit. I hope you appreciated that, Larry. It's not quite your level of competence, but
I was happy.
What do we think about the game yesterday?
Jeff is like, enough.
Jeff wants to hear.
I can hear the X button. I can hear people's browsers closing nationwide.
Who doesn't want to talk about Maryland football? Let's do another half hour on it.
Maryland football and spreadsheets.
Yeah, I got time.
The basketball team exhibited all of the same problems that they had last year, and it made me very depressed watching the game. That's my take. Go ahead.
Yeah, Larry was pretty sad.
I don't think you can take anything from a first game at all, really.
If it was only problems that were in this game, but the issue is that they had those same problems last year. So it doesn't feel like it's
all
just
new guys.
One game worth of problems.
New guys. Think about how many new guys were playing. Harris Smith, Kaiser.
There's some of that. There's some, okay, give them benefit of the doubt, first game. Some of that, yes.
Let me tell you, Larry, let me tell you when I stopped getting too worked up about it. Before the under 12,
Yeah.
Willard had a lineup out there that had Dante Scott at the 2. Okay. Like this was not true. This was not a game that Kevin Willard was trying to win, with some sort of.
That is true. Now that I will say is a good caveat. Yes.
I mean, that he did that line change after the first punch, and I'm just like, what are we even watching right now? Like, I think it was. Wasn't it like
Traore and Swanton Roger together for?
It was like Long, Scott, Geronimo, CSR, and Traore. I mean, that is like that is just an absurd lineup. I mean, I think I was just giggling to myself in hilarity watching him play.
Quick tangent, and we'll go on. Are we saying Traore because that's what?
Yeah, I think it's Traore. I think you guys are right, Traore.
Yeah, my soccer pronunciation was correct. I think.
Watching soccer, the first positive benefit ever from watching soccer.
Don't be mean.
That's awesome.
Jeff,
live video.
Who has the better headline today, Paul or me?
Probably Paul, because that's like the feeling.
It's topical.
I mean, well, you know what? It hits home with me. It strikes a chord with me, given my professional life choices.
And for those listening on the pod, Paul's headline is reconsidering life choices, and mine is patiently waiting. And they're both regarding the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
You're not really patiently waiting, if we're being honest. You're very impatiently waiting.
I'm not. Either way, you don't have a choice, so it doesn't matter.
I'm not. I told you weeks ago. I was like, this is not happening. That's where I've been for weeks now. So I'm not that surprised. Anyway, back to the game.
You know what was interesting last night, if you are going to start talking about the way guys played, because I don't know that the team effort is something I'm really worried about. It's kind of like the Midnight Madness scrimmage back in the day. You just kind of want to see what the new guys look like. Certainly, Jeff and Naki and a lot of people have been talking about Geronimo. You can certainly see his level of athleticism, his ability to kind of play at those pretty much anywhere from a 3 to 5, probably, depending on what's needed. So that's certainly going to be helpful. Julian Reese's jumper, I thought, actually looked a little bit better, but the free throw stroke, I don't know.
5 minutes into the game,
foul trouble again.
5 minutes into the game, I texted, they still can't shoot. Julian still can't shoot free throws, and Julian's still committing dumb fouls.
I thought some of those offensive calls on Julian were ridiculous, but
he deserved them.
I worry a lot about his reputation, and I think
he trucked that dude on the first one, man. He like body blocked him while he was moving.
He earned that one. Yeah. They called a hook on one. I thought was some crap, and there was I don't know if it was a moving screen or something on another edge. It was just like, come on, man, like that's just not. He just getting fouled for being bigger than the other guy. If you're talking about him,
he's going to get fouled a ton because he's gotten
stronger
and more aggressive. His post moves are more polished. His footwork looks really good, so he's going to get fouled a ton. He can at least. I mean, he's never going to be 85 or 80, but get to like 67%, somewhere in that range, low 70s.
65, 70.
Yeah. Otherwise, I thought Deshaun Harris-Smith looked as advertised.
Awesome.
Just a bundle of energy and physicality. He just looks different. I mean, it's hard to recall a Maryland freshman who is that. I mean, he looks like an NBA player physically.
Kind of reminds me of Dez. Like that same kind of like muscly, stocky shooting guard. Like
I think he's a little quicker. And he's got to work on that stroke. I think that's going to be the thing, and that's something that stuck out to me because Naki mentioned that a couple weeks ago when he was on the show. He was like, "Look, if there's something that keeps him from being a one and done, is he's just not that great a shooter yet." And the stroke didn't look great, but obviously it's his first game in college. Nobody should be judged for that. I think Kaiser looked. I think as advertised as well. He looked really smooth out there. He looked big, like I think he's a little taller maybe than I suspected. So you could be looking at, much more of a guy who could in theory maybe play some 4 when you need it.
How about that?
Go ahead, Larry.
How about that comp right there, Anthony Edwards?
No, that's a lofty compare. I can say that because my son has somehow become a Timberwolves fan, so we watch literally every game, and Anthony Edwards is becoming a top 5 player in the league. So that's pretty lofty. He's not that kind of athlete. He's a really good athlete, DHS, but he's not like one of those insane NBA. I mean, he's good enough to play in the NBA, obviously, but he's not one of those. Edwards is just a phenom.
We must pause for 1 second to show this. We just received
George. Good man.
George Breen, $9.99 super chat, $9.99. It's 50% of what we've made already total. In one,
let me throw another $10 on Nebraska's money line.
Hey, yeah. Hey, and there's not even a comment, George. Throw up a comment.
Yeah, throw us something. Throw us a question. If it's about Queen, though, you're gonna have to wait till the Queen segment.
And there's a lot of other stuff. Let me tell you about our buddies first before we continue, because we got to do that around this time in the show. I got to tell you about Streaker Sports, a lifestyle brand that creates unique heritage-inspired apparel and accessories. The New York City-based brand has joined forces with Peanuts this fall to produce an exclusive licensed collegiate apparel collection featuring Maryland. The collection is inspired by Snoopy's alter egos, Joe Cool and Joe College. For a limited time, use code TERPS10, that is TERPS10, TERPS10, for 10% off site-wide at streakersports.com. Now back to the game. Go ahead, as you were saying about DHS. And while we're doing that, everybody, do us a favor, give us a subscribe and a like and all that stuff. Thank you. Paul, back to the game. How about DHS?
Yeah, so again, I think DHS looked the part. Certainly Kaiser did as well. Would have liked to seen Lamoth get a little bit more run. He looked like he struggled a little bit with the defensive side of the ball, and that's certainly something that might keep him on the bench for a little while, but that's okay. You need guys to be able to develop and kind of take their time. And I think we kind of expected he might be one of those guys. I thought, when you're looking positionally about what Willard was messing around with, he played Traore a lot at the 5. So it looked like Julian played with him sometimes, so he could play at the 4, maybe get out there a little bit, test that jumper out, up to 10, 12 feet, which looked fairly good. He made a couple of them. Bachelor played some. I thought his stroke looked good, even though he didn't hit either of the 2 attempts. He did get fouled on the 1. You're certainly going to need guys like that to be able to step in. And if Bachelor can just hit a couple a game, that's a huge asset for this team, because as we witnessed, and as Larry rightfully complained about, they did not shoot well at all from long distance. The defense, I thought, looked really good, especially in the first half and early parts of the second half, and then they just kind of sleptwalked through the rest of the game. I'm not sure anybody else really stood out to me. I mean, Jahari looked the part. Everybody was healthy, which is good given the concerns about injuries recently. I'm not sure. Jeff, what else did you see? You've got a more
Kaiser than I do. What about Kaiser? I thought.
Yeah, Paul said he looked good, polished. He looked super confident. At one point, I noticed he missed a 3, and then he came down the next time and did a really tough one-on-one move to the middle and shot a contested pull-up and hit it. Most freshmen would not have had that kind of confidence to take that shot in their first game after missing a shot last time down. So I thought that was kind of a little thumbnail sketch of his personality as a player. Otherwise, I mean, they didn't shoot really well. At the end, they had that 7-minute drought at the end where they didn't score. That made the score look closer than it was. It was just a lot of new guys breaking in. So I would kind of almost compare it to how we said about this first 5 games for the football team. We don't know anything from them. Kind of feels similar, although obviously, you got to see the new guys and have a few takeaways from them. But I think this weekend down in Asheville against a little bit better competition with the team, probably feeling a little more competitive, or however, a little more fired up. We'll learn a little bit more.
Yeah, I will be. I think there's something to be said about how they play against Davidson. I know that they've lost some talent from last year, but they're always a quality program. As to whether he should have maybe used this game to actually fill out some rotations and things of that nature, rather than really just kind of a practice, because it really came across that way. So if they don't play well Friday, there might be some questions about that. And then I think they'll play Clemson likely after that, which is a pretty quality ACC team this year. So you'll find out real quick whether these guys can put something together. Certainly the reports from the not so secret scrimmages were pretty good, but they don't have a lot of time to get themselves right. And one of the things that stuck out to me from the quotes from I'm not sure if it's a Fast Breakers basketball preview dinner, but Willard had said, look, this team's going to take a little more time than last year because of all these new parts, and that's just something that needs to be expected.
You see this question, Jeff, from JJ Woodson in the chat. Do you see Kaiser starting over Jordan Geronimo soon? It was surprised.
Yeah. So I had posted it earlier in the day before the game that I was hearing that Geronimo was going to start, which is a little bit of a surprise, but not a huge one. Those two have been, from what I've gathered, gone back and forth all summer. I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of a platoon rotating thing till you figure it out, like we've seen with other guys in the past. I think Don Carey alternating between 6-man, and I think at one point, was it Aaron Wiggins, who preferred to be 6-man and then was in and out starting when he was young. So I think it'll probably be one of those where, they just play it by ear. They think that Dante Scott can play significant time at the 3. I know a lot of people disagree with that. Too big, this is a small ball era. He's a college power forward. I get that, but they think he can play some 3 with Geronimo at the 4. So I think that's part of the reason why Geronimo's stock might be on the rise a little bit. But if Kaiser can hit shots and play defense, I think defense is the biggest thing. Foot speed has always been the question with him. How quick is he? Who can he guard? So he needs to prove, that he can play defense, that he's ready to really clamp up on this level, because obviously Willard is a defensive focused coach.
Yeah, and I think how the rotation works itself out as the season goes along will affect that, right? Because when you've got guys like Kaiser and Geronimo who can realistically play maybe the 2 even through the 4, it kind of depends on whether, do you consider CSR part of the rotation? Do you consider Traore part of the rotation? And then you start bumping guys back up the position ladder, right? Yeah. So it really just, I think we won't know for at least a month or so, and maybe even Christmas or New Year's, as to how this is going to work out. But having guys who have that kind of size and athleticism, it's really helpful. I think the issue just always comes back to the thing that we worried about before. Do you have enough guards who can really, play all these minutes? I mean, Jahari really needs to step up and be like a 15-ish minute guy this year, way more than he was last year. I think, to me, that still becomes kind of a situation that you need to develop, because I don't know that you can play all these big guys at the 2 and 3 and not get murdered by some of those small guards out there, even in the Big Ten. So
when Ian Martinez left at the last minute of the transfer portal, they could have gone and got another guard, and their feeling was that they just brought in these 3 freshman perimeter players. They don't want to recruit over them, recruit somebody, to come in right with them. And Willard is very mindful of chemistry. Like, I think more so than other coaches, like you hear about it a lot, where, he got the team's permission before recruiting Dickinson. And last year, I remember he was recruiting based on, the guys he brought in from the portal. He didn't want them to step on toes with the guys who were there. He talked about that a lot last year. And so he's legitimately concerned, I think, and he said something about it after the game, about having enough playing time to go around. Because no matter how much you think you have 10 or 11 guys, A, you usually don't. Several of them usually end up not being good enough. But B, there's not enough minutes. It's just impossible to shuttle guys in and out like that. So it'll be interesting. Like you mentioned, Swanton Roger and Traore, I assume that they'll basically battle for the backup center minutes, most of them. And then Kaiser and Geronimo. And, with the guards, I think it's fairly set. You're going to see Jameer Young and Deshaun Harris-Smith play 30-ish, maybe over, 30-ish on average each. Like Paul said, Jahari Long's going to have to be a really good reserve. And, I think you'd love it if Noah Bachelor could become a guy who can come in and, hit shots, hit threes, and defend well enough. That's his reputation, but he still hasn't shown it.
Well, unless you're Tom Izzo, right? You play 10 or 11 guys. That's what he's done his entire career. It's worked for him. although not as much recently. But
I was going to say,
yeah, you know what?
But
how'd that work out the other night? Exactly.
Yeah,
the transfer portal has changed philosophies. You know, if you bring in a ton of guys, back then it'd be like, all right, he's only a freshman or sophomore. He knows by the time he's a junior, he'll have a big role. That doesn't fly anymore with the transfer portal. So you got to try to worry about keeping guys happy. I mean, even Maryland football, you see that with how many guys they rotate in at positions constantly. I think a lot of that is, you know, both depth and keeping guys happy because of the portal.
Yeah, I mean, these coaches are trying to relearn their jobs in the past, 2 or 3 years. I mean, it's just I mean, not only having the portal, but NIL. I mean, it's just a completely different job than it was, 5 years ago. So I think it's hard for all these guys, even established guys like Willard, to kind of figure out, okay, well, do I need to keep some of these guys happy if I want to keep them around? Like, I might think this freshman or this sophomore is going to be really good next year or the year after, but if I don't play them now, they're just going to split. I don't know how you handle that. I mean, every player is a little bit different. Every player likes to be where they are a little more than the other one that might be less open or more open to moving on for playing time. It's tough, man. I don't look forward to these guys having to handle that, but that's why you get paid the big bucks. So
yeah, and I forgot Jonathan Lamoth will be in the mix at guard. Not as many minutes as the other, but he'll have
Paul,
some
did you notice that Paul Jeff just looked down?
Did he
see that?
I did not.
I'm sure it's nothing. Hold on.
Oh, there he goes. All right, everybody, hold up. Stop the show.
That's fucked up, Larry. That's really not nice. Here, all right, hold on.
Derik Queen's going to Montgomery College?
I don't know if you can see this. This is what Larry just posted.
He
texted all of us, and it just says Derik Queen.
Just because I wanted.
I mean, that's basically my whole life right now.
I wanted him to look down at the phone on the camera. It worked too. It worked.
I'm sorry, Jeff. We've tried so hard to talk about literally anything else but that recruitment, but like it just
comes to the hey, it's part of the job, man.
All roads lead to Rome, right? And here we are. So
you got to go with what the people care about.
That's right. So
I posted an article on the site with some of the details of what I've been hearing leading up to this week, which obviously signing day, if you're watching now, was today. If you're listening, was yesterday, Wednesday. It was expected that Derik Queen would be announcing by now. It still seems that was the plan. I don't want to give away everything from the subscribers because they support the site. So it's always a tough spot here, but it's it's a developing situation, and I would say probably a little less confident than you should have been even like 4 or 5 days ago. Does that mean he's not coming to Maryland? No, not at all. But it wouldn't be Maryland if it was just like this easy 5-star victory, that you cruise to. So I'm sure there will be more news coming out really soon. Can't drag on forever. Although, like I said last week, he did tell our guy Colby about a month ago that he was still considering taking more visits potentially. People close to him kind of shot that down as nonsense. Still seems unlikely. So stay tuned. That's about all I do.
Last thing before we move on, Jeff from Tenacious Terp in the chat, he said, drop the percentages. What's the percent chance at this?
I mean, yeah, to be honest, you probably would have to. It's so hard to put a percentage on these things. I don't know. It's so hard to quantify that in numbers, but yeah, I mean, I would drop it. Just, I mean, if you think a guy's about to commit to you and he doesn't commit to you in that time frame, then of course the percentage drops.
Yeah, I mean, so factually here, it's not signing day, it's signing week, right? So don't they have till the 15th to sign in the early period? So it's pretty likely we either get a commitment and a signature in the next week, or they say, look, we're not doing this now. We're going to take some more visits, take some more time. And I think at that point, we can all just go ahead and start focusing on something else, because it's not happening at that point. But
no,
again, I think
if
again,
that happens, it's not happening.
Yeah, it's done. So here's the thing. As from just a Maryland fan's perspective, if we were just a normal school that recruited at a high level, typically, this would suck, but it wouldn't feel like the total dagger that I imagine all of you are feeling, as I generally am, because we just always seem to fail at these types of recruitments whenever it gets to big time, with big time schools. And now in the NIL scenario where somebody like Bill Self can just show up with a bag, and how can you expect a 17, 18-year-old kid to just be like, so this guy's showing up with an extra $1 million, no big deal. I'll just walk away from that. I mean, again, we don't know what the hell's going on. And I think part of the issue here is the silence, because nobody seems to know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, that's very unusual. Like, it's not unusual for there to be mystery. It's unusual for a guy who was supposed to be deciding soon to just have an official. It's now been 2.5 weeks since the last official, and to literally not say, well, we did get an interview with him right after the official, but otherwise just about his recruitment in general or when he'll announce, to not say a single word is very unusual. I mean, I've heard several different theories today about why he might be doing that. There's some compelling ones, but he's not taught. Nobody knows for sure except for him and the people close to him. So,
and the funny thing is, I don't even really have a problem with that. I mean, I think that feels like a well-run recruitment, frankly, being able to keep things in house, and you're going to do things on your schedule and whatever. It's just because we're Maryland fans, we know how this usually ends for us. So it's the PTSD and the history that's the issue here for me, not necessarily the development. Like, sure, if they expected he was going to commit by now and he doesn't, that's not going to make you feel good, but it only feels like a death sentence because it's us.
Yeah, and for me, it's a very specific PTSD of, oh shit, you've been saying this, because it happens a few times on these big ones. I mean, I think, I don't want to gloat, but over the years we've had a lot of stories we've broken, but there's a handful when those big ones come like this, that Sean, like I said, Sean Miller is the one, like, that was, I have great sources on that, all but done. We'll never know what the true story was on whether he was playing them for a raise or whether Kevin Anderson really had pizza grease on his face.
And sweatpants? Yeah. Sweatpants in the hotel room?
Yeah, and like Cheez-It crumbs all over him or whatever the story was. So anyways, it's that specific dread, like, oh man, if I'm wrong. And I never have said anything resembling him being a lock, but I have said I think they'll get him. I've been confident. I'm not just saying that I haven't said that based on just Maryland staff feeling good. I mean, I know they've felt good, but I talked to quite a few other people about it. So anyways, you just got to let it play out. I think there's a lot of people even closely involved who aren't really sure what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, you've been pretty responsible about couching your stuff with like, hey, it's NIL, anything can happen.
Well, that's the thing. NIL makes
but
I did not anticipate how NIL would make it harder on some of these big recruitments. Like Dickinson. I mean, I knew, I made sure to include in pretty much every report. Maryland feels good about their NIL, but they know he's going to have to take a significant hometown discount. So that was not a surprise that he got a big payday and NIL won out. And then, Nick Harbor was kind of similar. I think Maryland extremely confident on him at the end, overstated their position, or however you want to phrase it. And then there was another basketball recruiter too, who I think they felt like they had a decent shot at, who I think got pretty good paydays in the end. So it makes it wild, not just for me, obviously, but for the coaches too, because half the time they don't know what kind of offers somebody's throwing at somebody. So it's introduced not to make excuses for myself. Obviously, I want to be right every single time, and there's still a great chance, that'll happen here. We're talking as if he's not coming because
I was going to say that. It sounds like
no. I'm not.
This is just me. I'm infecting everyone with my
like,
negativity.
I'm saying it just more in terms of how the picture has changed a little bit, but yeah, you just don't know. You got a lot more people involved now, doing deals and angling for this and that and playing one side off the other. So it's gotten a lot harder for coaches to read. And, but Maryland has felt, I've said it all along, I know that Willard has felt very good about his NIL, what they can do for Queen. That's very competitive. Didn't feel like they're going to lose for that reason. So, I don't think that even if he does end up getting that a huge NIL deal, which I don't think that's going to be, I don't think it's going to be a case like Dickinson where he got this, 5 times as much or whatever it was in Maryland. It's going to be nowhere near that. But even if it ends up winning out, it's not an excuse because you've felt like, you've focused so much energy and you felt good in that aspect. Like you don't need to necessarily do anymore. But you might never know again.
That's where I'm at on this one, right? If this is your all in, chips are down, this Queen is the entire recruiting class. We're all the NIL, all the attention, all the everything we are throwing at him, and you miss. You just can't.
He wasn't the entire recruiting class.
Well, but he is now.
There were many others, and it was miss.
Yeah, but a lot of those guys, they were like, they would have taken him, but they weren't like.
They weren't in love with a lot.
They didn't feel like they were irreplaceable or must-haves. That's not to make excuses. They definitely wanted some guys and got beat on them, but none of them were anywhere near his level of importance to them and how much they've, built this whole year's recruiting plan around him.
All right. Well, I think we've beat the Derik Queen horse to death. I see Jack.
For the record, I'm not saying that Maryland's not getting him. I know that's the tone to this. Wait and see, and
you just checked your phone again, Jeff. What was that?
Who
was that?
Who was that?
It's Bob Stone.
It's what?
Oh, Bob Stone.
Bob Stone.
So we're finally getting that interview.
Bob Stone, nice.
Yeah, so we'll pretty much know we'll know something by our show next Wednesday because that's the end of the signing period. If he does not sign in the early signing period, he is not coming to Maryland. That is my very bold prediction.
No. If he does not, if this drags, another week or beyond this, there's no chance. Some people feel like that's already the case. If he hasn't committed since his visit, then that means I wouldn't agree with that. But if it keeps going,
it's Maryland, like a parabola, right?
Everybody, take a deep breath. Let's do the Zen thing. Right, take a deep breath. Do some meditation.
That's right.
Hit
subscribe while you're taking that deep breath.
Hit subscribe. We are going to end the show with some buy or sell, but before that, it is Paul's favorite segment of the show.
Oh boy.
The non-revenue report from Wheels.
Hey everyone, this is Wheels with your Inside Maryland Sports non-revenue sports report. Kind of a quick one today. Only 3 things happening. 21st ranked wrestling team opened with a win over American this past week.
The
Terps 12 dual meets this year. They're going to face 7 nationally ranked teams. Pretty tough slate. Wow. They head to Kansas City this weekend for a multi-team invitational tournament. Volleyball was swept in straight sets on both of their games this past weekend in Michigan. They get no rest as they welcome second-ranked Wisconsin to College Park on Friday. Finally, field hockey lost a 1-0 game in overtime to top-ranked Northwestern this past weekend in the Big Ten championship game. They did earn the national 4 seed in the tournament, NCAA tournament, which begins this weekend. They host Old Dominion on Friday, and should they beat the Monarchs, they will play the winner of the UVA St. Joe's game in College Park for a chance to head to the Final Four in Chapel Hill, North Carolina next weekend. And that's it. That's a wrap on your IMS non-rev sports report. Take care, everyone.
All right. Hey, the Big Ten wrestling and Big Ten volleyball are just gauntlets, both of them. I'm surprised the wrestling team's ranked 21. That's actually really good.
I'm surprised because they were awful for several years
long
before
time.
The coaching change.
The volleyball team's gotten better too, but when you're playing top 10 teams every week, it's like.
Yeah, I mean it's tough with soccer too. I mean a lot of these non-revs, moving into the Big Ten has made it tough there. I mean because again,
sometimes in soccer you don't even score a goal for like 1,000 minutes of clock consecutively.
Yes,
Shut up,
Jeff. Yes, Jeff. We know. We got it.
The women's team literally did not score a goal.
Okay, that's true. They were
1,000 minutes.
They're incredible.
It's true. That's exactly.
They're incredibly terrible this year.
About 1,000 minutes.
That like literally does not happen in the game except for that one instance.
Yeah,
I mean that is really bad.
10 games in a row scoreless is crazy.
It's like how do you even celebrate that? Like how do you even? It reminds after that season, like it reminds me of that guy from Boston College, that player several years ago when they were terrible, won like 3 games, and at the end of the season when they lost the ACC tournament, he was crying, and they were like, "What was your favorite part about the season? Your senior year?" And he was like, "Probably going out to eat." It's a legendary clip. It's a legendary
I hope after they finally scored a goal, like they just go crazy, kind of like when Kobe was watching his Laker teammates celebrate, and when they were they'd only won like 6 games at that point.
Yeah. Well, we just lost all of our support from the women's soccer community, but.
So that's where the viewers went after the Queen segment. I see.
Yeah, we can see our number of viewers combined from all platforms. We're trucking in triple digits while there's Derik Queen, and now
it's like non-revs.
No, it's just 1 minute.
Okay, so now that we have the real fans here, Jeff, you can give the actual.
Yes. Hey, he just looked at his phone again.
Well, Derik Queen's sitting actually right there, and he's been keeping quiet all this time. But since
just
Larry's
looked at his
wanted to do
phone
this,
again.
I brought him out. I flew him out to announce, but he doesn't want to do it right now.
That is,
well, we can do
later tomorrow. Just let him keep stringing it along for subscriptions.
Right. Yeah, I mean, well, if we want to plan it now for next week's show, I mean, as long as I know that's coming, I don't care about everybody else freaking out the whole week.
Multiple people in the chat have asked about the hospital rumors. Is that true? There's rumors that I think his mother was in the hospital or he was in the hospital. I'm not even quite sure today.
I saw some people talking about that. I don't know what that's all about, so I don't really want to speculate on that one. I do know she was down there in Florida today, visiting him at Montverde Academy, which is interesting. When all his teammates are announcing, you wouldn't think she'd be coming all the way down there to see his teammates announce. So that leaves kind of a hole in the plot.
Did he get a overnight visit from Dollar Bill or something like that, and all of a sudden things changed?
I don't think Kansas is involved, but
it might not be Dollar Bill. It could be anybody.
According to the Kansas 24/7 guy, they don't think they're involved either at this point. So I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I haven't heard much, and there have been times where you don't hear about Kansas, and they just swoop in and get a guy at the end. Dickinson wasn't like that because we knew Kansas was the top competition literally from the minute he got into the portal. But I don't think nobody's talking about them. Like if it was one of those deals where he was coming in with $1 million, I feel like some people would be talking about it. But like I said, in the NIL era, you never know for sure what's happening behind the scenes with some of these 5-star kind of guys.
Okay, buy or sell. I'm going to give you a Maryland-related item. You're going to say whether you're going to buy or sell that item. And remember, it's not whether you think it's good or bad. It's whether you think it's going to get better or worse. You buy low and you sell high, right? So,
Larry, if you ask me Derik Queen and Maryland, I'm coming through this screen.
It's not in my
grabbing
list.
You.
It's not in my list. Not in my list.
You can only beat Jeff to a pulp for so long.
It's not my list.
There's just nothing left.
I was trying to think of how else I could possibly frame it.
Yeah, it's not in the list.
Okay, let's go.
Jeff, Maryland's 3-point shooting.
Selling. They got to prove they can shoot. Last night was reminiscent of a lot of those games last year. They're 3 of 18 last night. That's not a surprise. That's been the biggest question by far. So I can't buy it without a reason, but we'll see.
All right, Paul. Chances that you'll be hanging out with Hoagie at a bowl game.
Sell. Hoagie doesn't leave his basement.
I saw him at a game this year.
Okay,
No
well
way.
maybe he does.
Wow.
pop out of the bat cave every once in a while.
It's like a Bigfoot sighting.
I mean, I think Maryland's going to win one of these last 3 games and go bowling. I will not be there.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I think so. I mean, I'm joking about the Nebraska thing, but like, I don't think they're going to completely lose out. It just got a weird. Again, everything in my brain is telling me that's what's going to happen, but I got a weird gut feeling like this weekend or Rutgers. I think they'll probably pull it out.
All right. Well, those are the 2 chances because they're not beating Michigan. So
no,
Jeff, Maryland's 11-man rotation.
Selling. You can't, you can do that for the first 3 weeks of the season when you're playing cupcakes and everybody's feeling good. But once it gets more competitive and you got to go with your best guys and you start to realize who your best guys are outside of that first 4, it'll be it's just the law, just how basketball works for the most part. So I think 8 or 9 guys, probably there's no way you're going to play 11 guys consistently.
I agree. Paul, chances that you'll be hanging out with Hoagie at the Final Four.
Also, I don't want to hang out with Hoagie at all for any reason, anywhere, frankly.
Yes, you do. You love Hoagie. No. Come on.
Hoagie's just like he just exists.
We have a good rapport, Hoagie and I. There's this very dry humor thing that happens, and it's very.
If you don't know, Hoagie is a long time poster on the InsideMarylandSports.com message.
Probably the biggest legend in the Maryland message boarding community of all time, right?
I think that's probably
how's that for
easily.
For a claim? Yeah.
I'm not sure that's going in your obit, but
I mean, for nearly 30 years, we've been posting together on Maryland message.
I mean, legit, people ask me about him. Like, they'll be like, oh, yeah, we'll talk for 1 minute. And they'll be like, do you know Hoagie? Like, they'll be like, what's he like in real life? Like, it's crazy.
The exact same.
Cult figure.
Yeah. So I'm going to sell that too. I don't think this is a Final Four caliber team, but I think they'll be pretty good. I still think Sweet 16 is about where they should land if everything comes together. So we'll see.
I got 2 more for you, but before we do that,
Antoine coming through again. Look
popping up, Antoine Cuff.
That's our guy.
He threw in a super chat and he gave us an over/under.
Hey, and my guy George, if you're still around, you still got a question or over/under. Throw it at us.
George,
you give us money, you get time.
Yeah,
that's a tough question. Read the question, Larry.
Over/under 2.5. The number of freshmen and sophomore offensive line starters next year. That's so hard to
tough.
say. I think it's under.
Yeah, because you just don't really start, no matter how bad the situation is. You just don't start those guys often. You usually will start even like a retread veteran over a talented freshman at that position. So hard to play right away.
But the more I think about it, it could be because freshmen and sophomores, and they're losing like 4 seniors again. Like,
well, that was I'm literally pulling up the depth chart right now because I'm pretty sure.
I'm trying to remember the whole thing.
They're losing.
Oh, they're all veterans and
4 seniors, right?
Yeah. Okay, so
pretty much everybody is a senior or redshirt junior.
You've got right now. You've got Glaze as a junior, redshirt, but also your best offensive lineman with NFL potential.
He'll probably go to the NFL.
He might go. You've got Moran, Harris, Yedzi, Purcell, Bullock, all seniors. They're all gone. Kyle Long will be a junior, so he doesn't count.
Really, the only young guy who I can think of, Andre Roy, will be a redshirt. He'll be a redshirt sophomore, but if he's not starting next year, something's wrong because he's probably the most athletically gifted guy that you have there. He's just a little too light. I mean, Penn State wanted him, South Carolina, or he was committed, to Penn State.
But they're bringing in.
I mean, it's actually a really good question because they're going to have to get some veterans in the portal too. But
that's what I was going to say, the portal. But when I started thinking about, they're losing so many older guys, plus probably Glaze, I don't know. And then who do you play? Because that's all you've got, or like these.
And that's why they've got that like 7-man OL class coming in next year too.
Yeah, but they will get guys in the portal.
They're going to have to hit the portal hard because there's just no way those guys are going to be ready. And you think the offensive line is bad this year, boy, next year could be could be something else, and you're replacing a quarterback too. So
yeah,
I don't want to remember the eligibility. I think Bullock might have another year.
I'm going under because
I think a couple of those guys might still have COVID years left, but man,
between COVID years, medical red shirts, and now being able to red shirt while playing 4 games, and guys just deciding sometimes whether they want to play for 4 or 5 years, it's gotten really hard to predict sometimes how long guys will play. But it's a really good question by Antoine, because there's not, there's a ton of old men on the line, but at the same time, the line hasn't been that great. So is it maybe it's
I mean, if you get some guys who, certainly if you get some guys in who can play, I mean, there's going to be open slots. I don't think it's going to be freshmen and sophomores most likely.
Yeah,
they need to fortify the inside of the line. I talked to somebody the other day at Maryland, like somebody up near the top of the totem pole, and his take was that the running issues are, largely that interior line. So they really need, because that's where you lost. You think about it, that's not surprising. You lost Colton Deary, who was going to be a really good center eventually, who they loved, and then Lunsford at guard, both on the inside. So I think that's kind of an overlooked angle, is they can't really run the ball very well at all, and they're hurting right where they lost those 2 linemen.
Yeah, the running game falling apart the last couple of weeks has been a big factor in these losses for sure.
Jeff, buy or sell the health of your nervous system right now?
Oh, I'm selling the hell out of that. I shouldn't be on edge, because I've done this for so long, and I know by now that no matter what happens in a story, it's on to the next one quickly. But I do take pride in my work, and I have said for a long time I think it'll end up at Maryland. So I don't like being inaccurate. And aside from that, regardless of me being right or wrong, I want to be ready to get that story up as soon as it happens. So I'm definitely
over under the number of articles you have prepped and ready to go for various scenarios. 3.5.
Just 2, baby.
Yeah,
up or down.
Under. Well, yeah, just 2 or 3, but none of them involved him going to Indiana or Kansas or anywhere else. Because if that happens, those guys will write. I'll write a story too, but people don't really want.
I don't need the long form explanation.
They don't want right away. They don't want the obit on that. So, anyways, I mean, I've had some stuff pre-written for quite a while. I'll put it that way.
Paul, last one. Buy or sell? Cryptocurrency. Went kind of legit on the buy and sell for that.
Sell. It's all made up bullshit.
But it goes up sometimes.
And it goes down too. And
right.
It's not connected to anything but what somebody feels like it's worth at that point. And
I can't really wrap my brain around how you decide which. There's so many like coins. Like, how are you like that one? Like with stocks, you look, I think they're gonna be the first one to get this patent, or they're doing this or that. What are you looking at?
Yes, there's actually something of value.
Yeah, not just something of value, but also an indicator of this one might have more value than the other.
If you know your history, this reminds me of like the Dutch tulip thing in like the 1600s, where the market goes crazy for something that's kind of worthless, and just eventually you don't want to be the one who gets caught holding the bag. And I'm surely not. But if you get rich doing that, congrats. I mean, good for you. But I'm not going to be that guy.
We got a good comment here. I love the best comment of the show so far. Paul is an idiot. There we go. Thank you.
The second sentence is certainly true regardless.
Thank you, Jeffrey Bourne.
Yeah,
Thank
Bitcoin
you.
only.
Thank you.
Not just Bitcoin, but he didn't just say Bitcoin, but Bitcoin only.
Yeah, maybe he can explain it to us idiots.
I mean, if you bought a Bitcoin
if you're running your
like 15 years ago,
Bitcoin
you're
only, I'm
wealthy
kind of curious
now.
about what you're up to,
Yeah.
If you bought them 15 years ago or whatever, like, you're wealthy now. So, but now it's the
pyramid.
podcast.
A guy who bought like I don't know, less than $1,000. I think I have a delay going. Sorry, this guy bought like $800 of Bitcoin. I don't remember what year it was, and it's worth like $11 million.
Yeah,
now.
but now it's now it's so saturated that you can't do that anymore. But you had to get in the beginning.
Yeah, well, if somebody just
baseball cards.
Yeah, if somebody just bought some IBM stock, or some Apple stock in the Apple Macintosh in the early 80s, they'd be a millionaire too. Like, I don't know. At least that has some sort of value attached to it, not just But yeah, good for you guys. Go ahead and play that casino, man.
I'm seeing, all right, just to pile on, people are saying that Barham is leaving in the portal after this year. That's making me, it's already going to be bad, man.
I mean, the only reason they're saying that is because he has looked not super intense the past few games, to put it kindly. There was a few tackles where kind of, but I don't think that's coming off of any real intel. They're just seeing that he doesn't look, I mean, who knows, but that's a guess. And I asked somebody over there about it, and what I was told is that he's been nicked up for a while, and that's affecting him. But
I mean, anytime you've got a team that's struggling, obviously you're going to look at their young, good players who are going to, we can all pretend for a minute that nobody is tampering and sending offers while these guys are still within the program, but that's going on. And James Franklin would love to get him up there. I'm sure there's plenty of money being tossed around at some of these guys who might be young and talented and might be able to see themselves walking into a much better program. And look, that's what Penn State is. If just using them as an example, and there's plenty other ones. So I don't know. I ain't got time to worry about that. I can only really worry about one thing at a time. So let's focus on our doom. All right.
Yeah. Once the portal opens up, we'll see.
It's I'm predicting an absolutely brutal portal this year, and it's going to make me question my fandom, I think.
I mean, the situation is definitely ripe for that possibility.
And you know what? Yeah. It will be every year because we're just a doorstep to bigger things for some kids and assistant coaches and things of that nature. That's the level program we are in this age. You just gotta accept that, or you gotta go root for somebody else.
But I think it's like Larry. I think Larry's hinting at it's even a more ominous feeling this time if you were to lose out, go 5-7, have people unhappy looking at it as a failure of the season. Then it could, it could be tough.
But you could imagine a situation where they win one of these games, go win the Detroit Bowl or some shit. You're still at 7-6. That's not great, but it doesn't quite feel like the floor is falling out the way it does right now either. So who knows?
I feel like they're beating Nebraska just because of that fishy spread.
I'm telling you.
I'm on record right now that they're going to beat Nebraska.
They're going to beat Nebraska because I bet money on Nebraska. That's how this works. So again, you're welcome. Don't say I don't care about all y'all. I'm putting my own stuff in there for you.
Well, you wagered our entire budget, Paul.
Well, now I gotta get some of this money from tonight, man. We gotta throw that on there.
That's true. We just about doubled it tonight.
Yeah. Getting in the big time.
All right. How many is that? What's something like super positive right now about Maryland sports? Anything? Give me something. Let's end on something super positive. Super positive.
DHS and Kaiser, man. DHS and Kaiser is all I got. That's all positive. I got because they look they look really good and really fun. Yep.
That's the positive thing. Basketball team looks like it'd be women's team. If you're into that, they look pretty good. I think they're number 14.
You say the basketball team looks like it could be really good. I would argue that they looked like they could be.
Yeah, that game is nothing. It's first game of the year. Give it a few games. If they still look like that, 10 games into the season, then I would be very,
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
I wouldn't get super excited if they beat Mount St. Mary's by 50 points either. I mean, it's kind of the
if they did though, you'd have a very different feeling. Like, hey, this is a different level. This is better than last year. You would feel that way, but
and I'd be wrong probably, but yes, it's like a brain versus heart kind of thing. Like obviously, I witnessed it, so I'm gonna feel a certain way, but my brain has been doing this long enough to know that you kind of need to discount these first few games.
It's gonna take a little while for DHS and Jameer Young to kind of meld together. It's always hard when it's a senior and a freshman who've never played before. They're both kind of guys who like to have the ball in their hands, so they have to learn where they pick their spots and things like that. So that's going to take a little while also.
Yeah.
Well, it's a very good show, guys. The chat room, you guys are awesome today. So much activity, so many good questions, and playing along with the buy or sell and all that. And of course, we got a special call out for George E. Breen III and Antoine Cuff for their super chats. Thank you, guys. That is very much appreciated. Everybody else, do us a favor, give us a subscribe, hit the like button for us. If you're just listening back on the podcast and you ever get to YouTube and signed in, please check us out and give us a subscribe there as well. We are doing this every Wednesday at 7:30. That is our regular time slot for the rest of the year, unless Maryland happens to be playing a game, in which case we will make it widely known how we're going to shuffle that around and reschedule. But that is a schedule. We'll be back next week. Thank you very much. This is IMS Radio.